You betrayed me without blinking. Now it's your turn to suffocate. I whispered those words to myself the night everything changed. They weren't meant for her? Not yet. But I needed to say them out loud, to remind myself that I wasn't crazy, that this wasn't some passing storm we could talk through over breakfast. My name is Ethan Brody. I'm a mechanic. Nothing glamorous, just oil changes, brake jobs, the occasional transmission rebuild when someone's luck ran out. I've lived in Millfield my entire life, the kind of town where the Friday night football team matters more than who's mayor, where your last name is either old money or forgotten debt, where people wave when they don't mean it and gossip when they do. Claire and I met our freshman year at Millard State. She was the only girl in our intro to calculus class who actually seemed to enjoy it. I was struggling to remember which side of the equation the variables belonged on. She offered to tutor me. I offered to buy her coffee. We ended up falling in love somewhere between derivatives and cheap cafe lattes. She became a teacher. I went to trade school. We bought a small house near the elementary school where she eventually taught second grade. We got married. We talked about kids, but never had them. Something between bad timing and bad luck. We built a life, one carefully chosen piece at a time. Mortgage, routine, familiar silences. The kind of marriage that looked perfect from the sidewalk. But perfect is just another word for no one's looking closely. I started noticing little things about a year ago. Subtle shifts in gravity. Claire started working late more often. School board meetings, she said. Federal grants, special needs initiatives, anything she could wrap in the noble language of helping kids. Her phone, once unlocked and left on the kitchen counter, now had a passcode. I used to know it. It was our anniversary date. April 2nd, 2008. Then one day it wasn't. Just like that. There was a new pair of heels in the closet. Expensive ones, red-soled and foreign. Not something she'd wear for a classroom full of 7-year-olds. When I asked about them, she smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "Sometimes you need to feel beautiful, even if it's just for yourself." She'd always been good with words. That was her gift. But it wasn't just the heels. It was the perfume I didn't recognize, the way she lingered in the mirror before leaving, the silence after midnight, when I lay beside her and realized I didn't know the rhythm of her breathing anymore. Some nights she'd come home humming. Not songs I knew, not songs we ever danced to. She was careful, too careful. Kisses on the cheek, texts that got deleted, emails hidden behind subfolders with names like Grant Drafts and PTA Budget. She played the part of the devoted wife so well, even I started believing it again. But something deep in my gut, some quiet part of me that refused to die, knew better. So I waited, and I watched. And eventually, I saw everything. The dashcam footage changed everything. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Cold night. I was in the garage, drinking cold coffee that had gone bitter from neglect, fiddling with a faulty alternator when my laptop pinged. Motion-triggered footage uploaded to the cloud. Claire's SUV. I had installed the camera months ago after someone keyed her door at the grocery store. She'd cried about it, said it made her feel unsafe. I told her I'd take care of it. I always did. The system was top tier. Night vision, auto-upload, motion detection. I never thought I'd need it for anything more than catching a bored teenager with a sharp key and too much time. But what I saw wasn't vandalism. It was my wife's silhouette kneeling in the alley behind Morrison's diner. And Derek Voss, his campaign stickers lit up like neon in the dark, leaning against the hood of his Lexus, head tilted back, mouth open like a man praying to a god he didn't believe in. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. 15 years of marriage, burned pixel by pixel on a 6-inch screen. I replayed it 7 times. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to be sure. Maybe I thought the shadows would rearrange themselves into something less grotesque. They never did. On the 8th time, I saved the file. I labeled it insurance.mp4 and locked it inside an encrypted folder named Christmas 2022. Tucked it behind firewall after firewall, just in case. Claire had been working late that night. Another meeting. Special needs grant, she said. Derek was helping her write the proposal. He was always helping. That weekend, while she slept upstairs, I cracked open her laptop under the pretense of fixing its lag. I cloned her drive. Routine procedure, I told myself. Something I learned from an old army buddy. In her files, hidden deep inside color-coded folders, I found something called Project Runway. Not fashion, fraud. Dozens of falsified invoices, spreadsheet columns that didn't add up, grant applications requesting over $800,000 in equipment for disabled children, and receipts showing less than half actually spent. Claire was good at math. Too good. I copied everything to a flash drive. Then I printed it out and read it in the basement beneath a single bulb. Like a wartime interrogator, she had built a system, a loop. Apply for bloated grants, falsify the paperwork, filter the surplus through many fake vendors, shell companies linked to Derek's campaign, and keep a cut for herself. Over $340,000 unaccounted for. They called it redistribution. I called it theft. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I smiled at the breakfast table, kissed her forehead when she left for school, held her hand in public. I let her lie to my face. I let her keep humming. While she played perfect wife, I became something else. Tom Patterson, a fictitious school janitor, a man with limited education but excellent observation skills, a man who worked night shifts and stumbled across inconsistencies in budget records. I found an email address for Tessa Morell, an investigative journalist who once exposed a judge for bribery in a neighboring county. She had a nose for small-town rot. I wrote her, Ms. Morell, I work nights at Millfield Elementary. I'm not smart enough to explain what's going on, but something about the grant paperwork doesn't add up. I've attached some documents I found in the filing cabinets. If you know how to read them, maybe you'll see what I see. Tom Patterson. I signed it with shaky hands. That same night, Claire came home smelling of lavender and fresh lies. She made lasagna, poured red wine, asked about my day. I told her the transmission rebuild went well. She said Derek was optimistic about funding. I said, that's great. He's a real asset to the school board. We clinked glasses. I watched her lips move and imagined them whispering numbers into Derek's ear. She laughed at something I said, something forgettable, and leaned across the table to kiss me. I tasted betrayal and tomato sauce. Justice requires patience and precision. 3 weeks after I learned the truth, Derek Voss brought his Lexus to my garage. Brake pads, he said, flashing his campaign smile. Nothing urgent. I shook his hand. It was warm, too soft for a man who made so many hard promises. You probably don't remember me, he added. Millfield High, class of 98? Oh, I remember, I said, steady. Hard to forget the guy who stuffed me in a locker and called it team building. He laughed too loudly. We were just kids, right? Sure, Derek. Just kids. And now you're just a criminal in a suit. While his car was on the lift, I used a technique I hadn't touched since my army days, pressing his key fob into a block of modeling clay. Perfect imprint. Enough to clone it later. 2 nights later, I followed Derek to Murphy's bar. I waited until he stumbled out, drunk and fumbling with his keys. Then I made my move. Using the clone fob, I slipped into his car, moved it a block down the street, positioned it poorly against a lamppost, and scraped the bumper. Then I waited, engine running. When Derek finally found it, half drunk, confused, I gave him the final nudge. One soft push from behind, just enough to make him panic. I drove off, called 911 from a payphone. Anonymous report, drunk driver, Lexus, tag number, location. By morning, the front page of the Millfield Gazette read, City Councilman candidate arrested for DUI and hit and run, Derek Voss, found unconscious in driver's seat, blood alcohol over legal limit. Campaign suspended indefinitely. Claire dropped her mascara when I mentioned it. Derek? She asked, face pale. That's not possible. I handed her the paper. Looks like his political career's done. She read every line twice. Her hand trembled. Maybe someone set him up, she said softly. Maybe, I echoed, but the way her voice faltered told me everything I needed to know. She had just lost her safety net. The article dropped 3 days later. Tessa Morell's piece hit like a detonation. Millfield educator implicated in embezzlement scheme tied to suspended politician. Names, documents, account numbers. A perfect narrative constructed from my evidence. Within hours, Claire was suspended from her teaching position. Parents whispered in the parking lot. Neighbors stopped waving. Anonymous posts filled the town's Facebook groups. She still denied everything. They're framing me, she said. This is political. Are you sure? I asked. How can you ask me that? Because I needed to hear the lie one more time to know she still believed she was innocent. She ran, left a note on the table. Don't try to find me. I need time to think. But she wasn't thinking. She was moving. A gas station receipt in Springfield, hotel charge in Branson, then a $400 withdrawal near Little Rock. She used the joint account card. Every swipe pinged my phone. I followed. Lake Taneycomo. I knew that name. Derek's family had a cabin there. Remote. Quiet. Surrounded by trees and regret. When I arrived, her rental car was parked next to his Lexus. I slashed their tires, killed the power to the cabin, Let the storm roll in around me like judgment. Inside, they were arguing. I listened from the shadows. We should turn ourselves in, Claire whispered. We? You mean you throw me under the bus? Derek snapped. Ethan leaked everything. He's not who I thought. You're right, Claire. I'm not. Not anymore. I slipped inside using Derek's own key. Soft steps, quiet breath. The kitchen smelled like whiskey and panic. She passed within feet of me, searching for a bottle. I stepped from the darkness. Hello, Claire. She dropped the Jack Daniels. Her lips moved, but nothing came out. How did you find me? She whispered. Same way I found everything else. I pushed the knife to her throat. She froze. I whispered, One sound, and this ends here. She nodded. I guided her back to the great room where Derek waited. He reached for the pistol beside him. Let her go, Ethan, he said. Sit, I ordered. He hesitated. So I showed him the blade pressed against Claire's spine. He sat. They looked like school children caught cheating on the final exam. Nervous, guilty, weak. Let's talk, I said. About stolen money, about federal grants, about infidelity. Derek tried to reason. We can split the money, walk away, you'll never see us again. That's the problem, I said. I'll always see you. Claire broke down first. I'm pregnant, she said. I paused. The room went quiet, but for the sound of the fire crackling. Whose? I don't know. Liar. We haven't touched each other in 2 months. I remember. I count. Her eyes filled with panic. Her mind raced, doing math, rewriting memory. Please, Ethan. I struck a match. Congratulations, I said coldly. You're going to be a mother. Don't do this, she begged. We can fix it. No, I whispered. You broke it, and you don't get to fix what you burned. The fire spread like truth, fast, unforgiving, and beautiful. As smoke swallowed the cabin, I walked out into the rain. I didn't look back. The cabin burned for hours. By the time the volunteer fire crew reached the lake, there was nothing left but ash, timber, and bone. 2 bodies. The coroner's report didn't name names, but I didn't need it to. I knew whose screams the trees had swallowed. I'd heard them echo in the firelight. The next morning, I stopped at a truck stop outside Branson. I cleaned the blood from my shoulder. Derek had slashed me with a piece of broken glass as he writhed, and called Detective Reeves from a payphone. This is Tom Patterson, I said. I think you'll want to check some accounts in the Cayman Islands. Brody and Voss. The money's there. And then I hung up. No questions, no fingerprints, just justice delivered through smoke and wire transfers. 3 days later, the FBI held a press conference. We've recovered $847,000 linked to a fraud scheme targeting special needs programs in Millfield School District. Photos of smiling agents and serious-looking bank statements filled the evening news. We thank the anonymous whistleblower for their courage. I was that whistleblower, and I never said a word. At Claire's funeral, I sat in the front row like a grieving widower. Neighbors patted my shoulder. The PTA brought a casserole. Someone left flowers on my windshield. You didn't deserve this, Ethan. She fooled everyone, even herself. They were right, but they didn't know how right. The headstone read, Claire Brody, beloved wife, trusted teacher, gone too soon. I stood over the grave after everyone left. I loved you, I whispered. I really did, but love wasn't enough. It never is. I turned and left before the dirt covered her completely. 7 months later, Detective Reeves stopped by the garage. Just checking in. Thought you'd want to know. We closed the case. The fire is being ruled as self-inflicted. Looks like Derek tried to destroy evidence. Got caught in his own flames. I nodded. Wiped my hands with an oil rag. Kids got their equipment yet? They did. New wheelchairs, smart boards, therapy tools. Your wife, she would have loved that. She would have, I said. If only she'd been who she said she was. Reeves left. I went back to work. Honest work. The kind that doesn't require passwords or lies. Oil changes. Brake pads. Things I could fix. That evening, I drove past Millfield Elementary. Through the glass, I saw children using the new gear. Laughing. Learning. They'd never know the cost. They didn't need to. They just needed help. I gave it to them. With gasoline, blood, and silence. I went home. Alone. Made dinner for one. The silence didn't bother me anymore. It felt clean. Because silence doesn't lie. It doesn't cheat. It doesn't embezzle. It just stays. And in the quiet of my kitchen, I saw a campaign sign on the lawn across the street. Somehow still standing. Re-elect Derek Voss. Integrity you can. Count on, I smiled. Raised my coffee cup in a mock toast. Now there's only one honest man left. I used to think being a good man was enough. Go to work, Pay your bills, love your wife, do what's right, even when no one's watching, but no one ever tells you what to do when someone is watching and lying anyway. Claire taught me something I wish I never learned. That sometimes love is just the first casualty in a war you didn't know you were fighting. She didn't set out to destroy us. Not at first. She probably told herself the same things we all do when we compromise. It's just once. It's for the greater good. I'll make it right later. But that's how it starts. Not with betrayal. With rationalization. By the time you realize you're drowning, you've already swallowed half the ocean. People say I got revenge, but they're wrong. I didn't burn that cabin for revenge. I burned it because it was the last place where lies still lived, and I needed them dead. I don't sleep better because they're gone. I sleep because there's no more pretending. There's peace in the ashes. But peace is not happiness. It's just silence, where screaming used to be. I've changed. I'm not the man Claire married, and maybe I never was. But I am something else now. Something harder, quieter, more watchful. I know what people are capable of when no one's looking. And I know how far someone will go to protect a lie they've fallen in love with. The next time I love someone, I'll look them in the eyes and wonder, how long until you turn too? Maybe that's a curse, or maybe it's wisdom. Either way, I earned it. Here's what I've learned. People lie because it's easy. They betray because it's thrilling. And they justify it because it's human. But somewhere, somehow, someone has to draw the line. Someone has to be the one who doesn't look away. Who doesn't forgive the unforgivable. Who doesn't pretend a marriage built on deceit can be fixed with a vacation and a lie about Europe. That someone was me, not because I'm noble, but because I ran out of excuses. The town thinks I'm a good man. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just the only one willing to carry the weight of doing what had to be done. They call me honest. But truth? I'm just what's left after all the decent men are gone. She thought I was weak because I didn't fight. But I was just waiting. And when the time came, I didn't miss.